Tsukimi, and this is Observations with Otsu. It's been maybe a few weeks. I've been kind of in and out. We'll explain all that in a minute. We're going to have a little more of a larger introduction today. As kind of a recap, Observations with Otsu is just a weekly observation of different assets, mainly Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance Coin, Dogecoin, and sometimes other coins like Solana. So we usually cover a minimum of three, but probably usually no more than 5 or 6, and then we also look at the total market cap. This week's video is also going to be the first video of the year. So we're going to look at maybe a year market perspective from 2022, what we might expect in 2023, and we can kind of move forward with that. So if you are familiar with, if you're not familiar, like, subscribe, please. I hate bringing that up all the time, but it really will help out my channel. I'm only like 140 subscribers. So if you want to see my videos be seen by other people, that's a good way to help support that. And it helps support me as well, so I can continue to give you more content. I'm also planning to expand the videos. Right now I've got the Observations with Otsu on Monday, usually during Monday mornings. It's Monday evening right now. I also do kind of a casual crypto and coffee video, usually on Wednesdays. We haven't done that for the past 2 weeks because I've been sick. So we'll do that probably starting on Wednesday, pending a root canal appointment that I have. I'm still kind of suffering right now, but that's usually what I do on Wednesdays. As we progress through January, I'm planning to add more videos completely for free as part of just the free offering I do on YouTube. One's going to be a more topical theme based, and the other one's still undecided yet, but it might be more like recent events or something of that kind of category. So I plan to start doing about 4 videos a week. Also, my videos tend to be a lot longer. They tend to be like 40 minutes. I'm trying to trim down Observations with Otsu to about 20 minutes maximum, so that way you don't have to hear me ramble. I tend to be a rambling person, and I thank you for your patience as I try to practice with these videos to get them shorter. Now, that being said, crypto and coffee on Wednesdays is meant to be a longer video. And so that's the main featurette of that, is that it is a longer video. It just shares my thoughts. I just go through, I basically just wake up, get my cup of coffee, and I just watch the markets with you guys. And so it gives me the ability to not have to keep face, so to speak, as far as being super high professional as I would be on other channels. And it kind of gives you insight on, hey, there's a casual way to looking at this. Sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's not, sometimes, it's a learning experience, right? So that's a way to kind of learn with me, so to speak. Not that I don't know what I'm doing or anything. It's just I get to observe the markets in real time, and then you get to see the analysis in real time as I'm looking at the market, instead of like a constructed, pre-scripted view of the markets. So and then the other new videos that are coming later in January, probably more so in the end of January, are going to be small videos, maybe 8 to 15 minutes at the most, looking at kind of that. And those will be a little scripted because they'll be topical. But that being said, I'm glad that you're here. I have been sick. We've had the holidays. I took a lot of time off for Christmas and New Year's, but also I had a sinus infection, and on top of that, the sinus infection also kicked in one of my teeth, which caused one of them to get abscessed, and so now I'm working on that. So it's been kind of a painful journey for me, and so I'm just working through that. But I'm glad that you've been patient with me. A few other constructive things that have happened lately is my free Telegram. If you have not joined, you can join now. The link is in the description. It's called the Otsu House. It's completely free. It's semi-private because I do advertise it about twice a month, but it's not like quick access, and I've got almost 1,000 subscribers. I might try to give away something once I hit 1,000, which will probably happen at the end of this month, at least, or at the most, I guess. But I've been covering one stock and one cryptocurrency as far as my picks for this year. I'm behind on that. I should have. January 2nd marks the end of that, but I haven't done any for the past 4 days. So I'm going to be adding those stocks and those crypto picks as well. I've already done like 3 or 4. I'm going to do about 3 or 4 more. So if you haven't joined yet, please join, because I still have picks to go. I got a lot of content to share in that as well. Also, if you're not familiar, I also run Apex Academy, which is a 12-week masterclass that goes over Aroon trading and the Aroon Pro strategies. I'm the only person in the entire world that teaches this because I created it. So a lot of that's going to be Aroon based, a lot of advanced Aroon stuff that literally I came up with over the past even over 4.5, 5 years. And so I'm the only source to get that. In addition to that, I'm also covering price action strategies and education and trend-based education. And so that's 12 weeks. We started week 5 today. So since we are into week 5, the only way that you can pay for it is if you pay for it completely in full. There's no discount anymore. New subscribers at week 1 had a chance to pay monthly. That's not available anymore. And then we had a Christmas discount which ended 2 days ago, so that's also expired. So if you want to join, you do have to pay full price, but it is still available for people to join. And pretty much everyone has said that they've already got their money's worth. I did a report sheet for the performance for December, and because in addition to the education, not only is there proprietary education for Aroon, but there's 3 different education categories. But there's also 4, not 1, not 2, but 4 Aroon bots. All 4 of these bots are based off of my Aroon Pro strategies, and the performance for December was about 76R. And it might be 78, I can't remember, but it's I think it's like 76.8 or something like that. So like our performance was 76%. So if you had $10,000 to work with, you would have gained $7,600, and that's just the first month that we've done this. So we far exceeded our expectations, and that's been good to go. And also too, if you're unfamiliar with what I'm doing, this is Apex Academy will be splitting into 2. So we'll have Apex Academy pretty much every 12 weeks for this year. So if you haven't joined and you want to wait till week 1, it'll start again roughly in March. So that's the second 12-week masterclass that we'll do. So what we'll do is we'll take 12 weeks, then we'll take maybe like 2 to 4 weeks off, and then we'll redo the 12 weeks for new members, depending on how many we get. Because right now we got, I think, 28 members, and I'd like to keep it above 20 to make sure we have a good ratio of effort to audience. So in addition to that, I'm also doing the Aroon Pro bots, or they're called Aroon Bots 2.0. We're doing a 2.0 upgrade for the Academy, which should, we don't have a set date, and Apex Academy is not guaranteed to give it to current members, but we are expected to get that sometime in January. So we will see. Apex members that do graduate from the Academy also get special pricing for what's called the Aroon Pro Suite. And that's coming in probably like middle of February, hopefully no more than the beginning of March. And what that is going to be, it's an entire Aroon Pro is going to be a complete trading system that you can utilize for yourself. I've had so many people talk to me about this, so I just decided to automate this all and just have it running. And so I'm very excited to share this. This is like one of the biggest things that I've worked on for the past 5 years. It's going to be really big, and so that's going to be a separate system than the Academy. So come February or March, you can join the Academy, which also has the bots, or you can do the bots by themselves. And then if you go through the Academy, then you get special pricing for the bots if you decide to do them by yourself. If you did not join the Academy and you want to join the bots, that's normal pricing basically. And so that's going to be how that works. There's going to be much more details about the Aroon Pro and the Aroon Pro Suite in the coming month or two. So if you are interested, follow me on Twitter. That's probably the best place to follow to get the source. I'm also going to mention it in my Telegram. That's probably the second best place I'll go, and that's where I kind of share a lot of more alpha level or maybe like private information. So make sure to follow me on Telegram and then subscribe as well, because I'll definitely be making a video about it. I got a programmer guy working on it right now, and he's been working through the holidays for it, and I'm very excited about it. The total market cap, and we're going to go to the weekly as we always do. Going to get rid of some of the stuff here. All right, so focusing on the total market cap first. Excuse me, we had a little bit of a bearish week last week. Nothing really unusual, but we also do see that we actually made a lower low, and we can kind of focus on this a little bit. Go ahead and extend this out, and there we go. So this was tested, it was respected, retested, and then technically it broke down. So that's actually the proper adjustment. So we did break down, now we're retesting that again. So this remains to be seen what this looks like on the weekly. That's very close. One thing that I would consider not necessarily like too close to call, basically. Like nothing that we should make a big serious deal about. So, but with that being said, it is good to kind of reflect on 2022. Because we can see here from, this was roughly the yearly open, and we made it basically a 65. I think it's actually like 67 or 68 from the very bottom. And so we're kind of looking at, if you want to look at the yearly close, we're looking at something like this. And so we had a downtrend for basically the entirety of the year, quite literally. And so I think it's worth noting, and I compared this in my group at Apex Academy, is that we had a similar situation here in 2018, and you can also see here that the line here is very respective of the top of the previous candle, and this is focused on the closing or the retest here that we just broke down below. So now we are technically closed under into 2018 territory. And so we can see here from the top, this was the yearly, or let's just see here, so the yearly open was basically right here at the very top. So you could have shorted basically the top of that year. And then the bottom was basically right here. And so roughly, it wasn't quite the bottom, it was 82%. And we had this little bit of a touchdown here, which was also a divergence on, I know at least the 1 day time frame. I think it was on at least the 2 or the 3 as well. So this is very reminiscent of 2018. And so if you are new, if you joined since 2019 and beyond, last year, which is now technically last year, is very similar to 2018 in regard. In fact, I felt like 2018 was a little bit worse in some cases and better in others. 2018 was much more uniform. Knowing what I know now as more of an advanced trader, at least somebody that knows more than I used to, this was probably easier to trade in hindsight than here. But overall, it's very reminiscent. We went 4 quarters in the red, which is the max that we've ever done. The past 5 out of the past 6 quarters have also been red. So that's also a record as well. Looking at the previous history, we've never done 5 red quarters in a row. So I am expecting price to be higher than it will be currently. So that's worth considering. I think that's going to be most likely true. I think statistically that also makes sense as well. And it's easy to kind of just say, I've seen a lot of sayings online about just kind of redoing certain thoughts that they've had during the bull market, like, the sentiment has basically changed, right? People aren't looking at things like mean reversion anymore. That's the one tweet that I saw, like, saying that, you know, people looked at mean reversion as their detriment, or certain things like buying the dip and things like that. And those are signs that the market is bottoming out, in my opinion, when we start to give up on certain technical theses, so to speak, based off of what we know from the test of time. So that's kind of a thesis or thought overview of what I can see. There's some I'll go into the Bitcoin analysis for this part, but just something to keep note here on the daily. We're still below this structure here on the market cap, and just focusing on the weekly, we have that as well. So we can just cover Bitcoin quickly, or we'll shift to Bitcoin. We won't cover it quickly. We'll just cover it as we need to. But you see I have some stuff drawn out here. I'll just get rid of this. We had a bearish candle like we did from the total market cap, but we did not make a new low, and that's a good sign, or that's a sign that's saying that altcoins are bleeding more than Bitcoin. And if we just look at the market right now, the market hasn't done too much damage since June. 22%. That's not super dramatic compared to what we might have felt like the market was. It seemed like it was worse than what it was, right? And honestly, if it wasn't for the FTX scenario, I think we would be doing a little bit better. I still think we would have went down. I'm not typically in favor, of events playing into analysis too much, because I think you can always find a reason for them to be that way. So I don't think we would have been as bearish as we had been if we weren't already bearish, let's say. Not to say that FTX didn't have any impact. Of course it did. It was a major blowout. It was one of the biggest black swans that we've probably since Mount Gox, right? So I don't want to take away from that. At the same time, usually macro analysis can cover most instances anyway. And that's one reason I don't focus on FOMC meetings and the S&P 500 like many people do. If you go from kind of the low of this area right here, which was right here, we're only about 11 or 12% from the low that we had since September. So we've been slowing down in retrospect, and you saw the wedge that I had. So I'll cover the bullish thesis first. Obviously that wedge was a major indication for that, and so this is kind of what I'm looking at. And it's not the best wedge. It's very narrow in that regard, but it's still a wedge that I'm considering. I'm also considering that we've exhausted some things. My liquidity marker is still holding in that regard. It also put in the sell signal from the local top. It also put it in here from the deviation on a higher time frame. So I'm a little optimistic on being neutral to slightly bearish in this regard, and this is a good application, in my opinion. I've been teaching Aroon in the Apex Academy, and one thing that we can study is these trends have certain patterns, and right now we have kind of a bearish or a bullish consolidation coming. And so if we can get some bullish momentum going, I think it would really change the trajectory. And like I said, statistic wise, it would be very rare for us to experience another 4 red quarters, right? It would even be rare to see one. So we have to play into that. So that's the bullish thesis. If you are a bear, there's some good evidence here as well. The biggest thing here is you got this kind of retest area. We had drop down, markup, retest, strike through, which is also a bearish engulfing candle, which should be retested, which we also did. We did not retest it completely because it should be tested right here. But we did retest this enough to where we have extended the downside. And so from a technical analysis standpoint, from a pure price action standpoint, really, you would expect further downside. So I can understand, although I'm leaning more neutral to bullish, I can understand bears positions right now. And so overall, I don't really see too much of a reason why we would come down too far, though. I mean, this looks very attractive. To kind of come down to this point, it would make a good perfect retest, but in many cases, I mean, even in 2018, it wasn't like that. We became exhausted. Let's turn to a different chart here. As you can kind of see, we didn't really. I mean, we kind of retested in this area a little bit. So if you kind of focus on this part, we didn't retest down to here. We wicked from that retest there. So it's kind of in a weird spot. Like, it's one of those things, like, subjectively you can kind of make it fit, but objectively that's really hard to do. And so one thing that would make sense to do is kind of fit it in like this. And so you focus on the low of this range and the low of this, and so it kind of still fits, but then not really. You still got that gap. So it's one of those things that people consider close enough, but that's in hindsight, right? It's a good thing to look at in hindsight, but that's because we're trying to make sense of what has already happened versus what's going on now. And so if that makes sense, what makes much more sense to me is that on the daily from that time frame, and I focus on this so much, and I don't care if I get made fun of, but because making money is all that matters. We had a clear divergence here, and we even had the wedge, so that it made an impulse. We retested that over time and went up. And this is really an Adam and Eve pattern, a little bit of an abstract Adam and Eve pattern, but it did work. And so that's I don't think that should be ignored. We even had it on the 3-day, right? So that's the things that I look at. I don't care that when it comes to bottoms, we don't have to retest a certain point, is what I'm saying. And I think a lot of people might disagree with me, and I don't really care, because in hindsight and probabilities and statistics show that we don't have to actually retest a certain particular point. We don't even need to use logarithmic charts because we focus on linear most of the time anyway. So it's those things, like those things don't matter. They, like, retesting happens when you're looking at certain order blocks or certain continuation structures. It's not for the macro view necessarily, because in many cases we don't cover that. And that's, I look at this chart, for example. Like, this is a log chart, but where did we retest here? I mean, we can kind of go out of the logarithmic chart, and does this count as a retest? That just depends on how you view it, right? And so it just really depends on that. And then you look at this structure. We didn't retest anything here, right? We actually went below. We had a bearish breaker, exactly like we do now, and it went back up and it swung up. That ended up being the low. So, and then you look at this, and that was the 2018, right? I mean, you look at it now, it looks like we just zipped back up. And then now we look at this, that was the COVID crash, right? It kind of retested this from the bouncing ball pattern we had, and then it also wicked down here. So how do you manage that, right? And so this went down right here on the high time frame. It didn't really matter too much there. And so now we got this going on. And so we can put this here. And so this is the monthly time frame, right? And we're just kind of hovering. And I'm telling you right now, we do not have to test 14,168. We don't. There's no indication from history saying that we need to retest this point. Now, this is where people make a little bit of a complication with things. Like, oh, we can just count the wicks, so it's going to happen somewhere in here. Okay, well, we're already there. We were hovering there, and then we struck through. So how does that play into it? We can also look at kind of an order block with a mid, And if we look at the mid, we broke below that. So how does that play into it, right? And so what I'm saying is, yes, it might retest. It is going to retest something, right? And so the thing is, in hindsight, we're going to look back a year from now or 2 years from now and see like how good that retest was, so to speak. But you just never know, right? And so, current time frame, it's you know, it's a guess. It's an educated guess, but it's still going to be a guess. And a lot of people have their theories. And my theory is like try to look for other circumstances where we could find a bottom. And in the end, you don't really need to find a bottom. Like you're going to eventually get a break up above here. So it's one of those things, if we do touch down or if we don't, you could buy up here. So that's another thing. If you're looking at a pure price action perspective for longs, I would not long until we get to 23,000. The problem is you guys are all wanting to buy at freaking $5,000. And so that becomes a problem, right? You're wanting to buy as low as you can. You're too freaking scared to buy right now. You've had all last year to buy. 2 years ago or 2 days ago was the best time to buy because it was the low for that year, right? December 31st was pretty much the low. So why not buy a little bit now? DCA now. What's stopping you, really, right? So I don't think it makes sense just to sit on the sidelines right now. I think it is time to start DCAing in, or to at least buy 5% a month or something like that. It just depends on your MO. I tell people in the academy what I do, and I have a whole system in play. And so that's kind of how I view it. I don't think that you should be sitting on the sidelines that much. No, I think you should be much more keen and active this year, way more than last year. And that goes with stocks too. Stocks are looking attractive to me because they look so piss poor. And so I like buying assets that look like crap because they tend to not look like crap later on. And so that's how I view the markets as well. I don't look at this and say, hey, this is bearish, it's going to continue to be bearish. I look at this and say, hey, this is bearish, what are the odds it's going to reverse? And then I'm going to ride these trades into later. Another thing that I mentioned in the academy as well is that we should focus, you might want to focus on long-term capital gains, especially if you're a little short on cash, or you think you might want to sit on your hands, or if maybe you had a full-time job. I think right now, if you buy here and you hold on to it for at least 12 months, you could ride it up to 50,000. You could get 3x, let's say, and pretty much just not pay any taxes or pay little taxes depending on your bracket. I think the highest tax bracket in the States for capital gains is like 24%, and that's very less in comparison. If you're at that same tax bracket, your normal tax will be like 50% probably, including your state tax if you have it. So on the flip side, if you make less than 50,000 a year and you've got $10,000, let's say, you could ride that for 3x. You get $30,000 through that 3x, and then you pay no capital gains tax. So those are advantageous. Like, take advantage of long-term capital gains if you can, and this is the perfect time to do it, in my opinion. And so that's a little bit of a overview. But going back to the weekly, yeah, we could see we didn't have as much of a reaction compared to altcoins, compared to the total market cap, which is because of altcoins. This is also reminiscent of, okay, Bitcoin is holding up versus other assets. And I think, it also might go up more than other assets too, but that's a sign that BTC is kind of holding the line. It's coming to a point where it's the measure of how we should view the market, like we always should anyway. But it's starting to kind of regulate itself, and I'm very excited for this. Actually, I'm not overly bearish, honestly. I think it's still worth being cautious, but I think the bearish thought process should be done. This is a new year. I don't think there's a lot of economic thesis going on that I don't agree with, just because everything looks bad in the economy for stat wise. We're going to continue to go down. Well, who says that? This is how reversals start, right? Reversals happen like in COVID, when this was the worst. Everybody was thinking basically like the worst case scenario, right? And that ended up being the very bottom. Even now, like, would you be happy to buy at 4 or 5,000, of course you would. But you were too scared to buy there, and now you're too scared to buy here. And maybe not you necessarily, but most people are way too scared to buy here, but they're happily willing to buy at 4 times the price. So I don't know. I've been very vocal that I bought at 16.5. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm going to buy lower. I'm going to buy higher. That's just how it goes. So overall, I'm neutral to slightly bullish coming into this quarter. The daily is a little bit different story short term. We got this little cluster here. We got this kind of order block here. So we're kind of this kind of a swing low order block. So we're kind of going up in that regard, but we'll see how that responds. This is looking a little weak here. It really needs to reclaim 17,000 in my opinion before we can look at anything. The Aroon is tightening, so that makes me think that there's a strong move coming, and it's usually the incoming line, the subtrend, which is bullish. So that makes me think that we could get a bullish expansion, and that goes with a lot of things that I've seen with liquidity issues. We're running low on liquidity issues, and the demand is starting to kick in, and so we'll see how that goes. So we're going to go to Ethereum now. And with Ethereum on the weekly, and we've measured some stuff out here, but I'll remove it. Again, bearish week, just finished the year, but we still have still have this retest, and I don't know why we're so bearish, because this doesn't look that bad. From a macro perspective, this looks pretty good. We had a little consolidation period, mark up, and then we went down, we distributed down, and now we're on a retest phase. This is a classic pattern for retesting upward. This is not necessarily a continuation pattern down, although I can see why people interpret it that way. And so this would kind of be what they're looking at, maybe from a triangular perspective. That's probably how they would view it. And so I can see why they're thinking bearishness, but usually when you have a continuation pattern, it doesn't look like this. Like, it doesn't go up and then cascade down like that. That's usually a sign that it's going to retest higher, retest and then go higher, I should say. But we got the order block in play. We're going to probably see a breakout at some time either way, and that's probably going to be by the beginning of February. So I think, this kind of goes with my thesis. I think this month is going to be kind of a strategic month if we can kind of stay sideways for this month, which I think either way, I don't think that this month is going to be very active. I think if we do hold the line, the bulls are going to get very excited in February and ongoing. So I think that's worth a point to try to make. So this retest is still holding. So I think that's something to consider. Why short, right? I mean, why short if there's no reason to, if we're holding this? So my line in the sand, I think to consider shorts would be maybe 11.32, or honestly, I would probably just wait till 10.68. And honestly, I'm not even looking at shorts anyway. I'm looking at, like, if this goes below into 3 digits, I'm going to buy. But this will be very interesting if we don't test into 3 digits. I don't know. I'm much more bullish than the average person. So, all right. So we'll go to the daily. And so again, very comparison to Bitcoin. Kind of stuck in a little mini range here. You can kind of get rid of this. It is kind of respecting the line for now. That's subjective sometimes. It just you can draw lines anywhere, right? So if I draw a line like this, yeah, we did break out. So as far as a price action standpoint, this is still kind of stuck in my head. We're just kind of going up and down. And so I think this is a good sign on the breakout or breakdown on kind of a more macro perspective of where that's going to go. Again, we have the same trend pattern from Bitcoin. So that's Another thing as well, um, and that's a good sign. That's a good sign that we're going to have a macro move coming very soon. So we are retesting the 50 RSI. So I can see in both cases the bulls or the bears. So right now it's pretty much 50-50, but I would probably, again, on the side of statistics for this year, I'm focusing a little bit more on the bullish side. All right, so on to B&B. We're going to go to the weekly, and I kind of measured some things out here already. We're kind of in a weird structure because this is very similar to Ethereum because it did have a consolidation. It had a different type of mark up, mark down phase on the semi macro level, but then we're retesting here, and we're retesting just fine. Not really sure why that's even there. So we'll just get rid of it. So looking at this is kind of how I view that as well. We retested that. We're still kind of hovering, but we also have this line right here in the sand, so we're kind of in like a middle zone again. I want to see kind of like a strike up above this or below that to kind of look at a macro perspective. Aroon is under bullish consolidation, so I am favoring the bulls a little bit in this range. I'm looking at this as kind of like a mini range. Not really mini because it's 1 week, but mini as far as the flexibility versus everything else. And so I would like to see above 264 before I really long this. Not really interested in shorting B&B, although I am always considering this $50 range here. I'm just not as bearish as everybody else. I just don't see the market going down so bad, and if it does, it's a good buy, right? So I'm not too concerned about it. I think it's worth looking at more of a optimistic year. So we'll cover Solana because that was kind of a thing today, and we'll see if Binance has something longer, which it does. And so I drew some stuff here, and I'll just get rid of this. So one thing that I looked at, as you can tell, is we had kind of a legacy pattern here that we tested for such a long time, and we actually broke below. And if you look at it, we're retesting this. So this is another thing. We don't have the divergence here like we did for Bitcoin. So this is one thing where I'm taking the bearish retest a little more seriously, and I would want to see a reclaim of this section here at 1563, mainly because Solana is a little bit different of an animal. Like, it was more closely tied to FTX, so I think it has much more volatile chance to go down, or maybe not be as valuable in the short term. So I kind of want, I basically I want Solana to put in more effort before I care about it, and so that's kind of the macro view with that. On the daily, you can kind of see how this plays out. Very robotic structure to this, right? Even before the fallout, but especially during or after, I should say. So got the retest. We're doing okay for now. Bearish or bullish breaker, so we might retest down here. And then we got the bullish wedge forming in, so that makes the bullish price action accelerate a little more. So overall, I am optimistic for Solana, but I am a little more bearish in that regard. I think we could still see some short-term momentum on the bullish side, but I'm not looking at it necessarily as a long-term bullish scenario just yet. Let me see. I think I may have seen something on higher time frames, but I'm not seeing it necessarily. On the daily, we got kind of a divergence on the awesome oscillator, but that's too long for the daily. So if we go to the 2-day, we don't really see it either. So it's just something to watch out for. I think we should just be overall cautious for Solana. Like I said, I think everybody would agree that they want Solana to continue to go higher and see all-time highs someday. But I want to see more evidence. It needs to put in the work for me to care about it. And it's a shame that it got connected to FTX because Solana did have a lot of good things going on with its chain, NFTs, and all that. So just keeping that in mind. So that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, subscribe. I can answer any questions on Twitter. And then if you want more, you can stay tuned for, again, I have for Wednesday, I got the crypto coffee video. So casual crypto and coffee, I should say. So you can look forward to that, and I'll see you next time.